Right around to center. Lundvik shoots. He scores! Johnny Lundvik does it again!
Jarvis in close shot. There's a goal. Seth Jarvis, the 17-year-old, short side, glove side, high, just under the crossbar.
Cutting to the front of the net, and they score. Reese Newkirk along the right wing just took the pass. That was phenomenal patience from Seth Jarvis and the Winterhawks.
Hey, this is Reese Newkirk, and you're listening to the Pucklandia podcast.
Welcome into Pucklandia. Pleased to be joined by Brendan Burke, former goalie for the Portland Winterhawks, WHL champion, and also the new goalie coach for this the same Winterhawks we're speaking of. It's it's pretty interesting to come full circle in your career to come back to Portland.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a lot of the same faces around than when I played there, so. There's a lot of natural connections there, so yeah, I'm really fortunate to be back involved with Portland.
So we don't get a lot of I've never had a goalie coach on the show before. It's kind of a thing that I imagine a lot of fans are curious about. How that works, what that the routine is like, and I've always thought that. Junior teams should have, at least the ones I like, should have a full-time coach, and it seems like we hadn't done that before. Is that kind of a new development for you this year?
Yeah, well, I think every team has depends what your definition of full-time is. Like, even myself, like I don't live in Portland. I fly in for practices and work weeks. Like I'm not on the road with them right now. I'll fly in and work with them, when we have a lot of practice to stack back to back. Obviously it's full time as far as watching, doing video analysis. I pretty much talk to one of the goalies at least every day, if not both of them. So, I guess it depends what your definition of full time is. It still is junior hockey, and there's obviously only so many resources to go around, so I think obviously the guys in Portland have invested into as much as they can. I think most teams are similar. Sometimes they have different situations based on their location, but most are pretty similar to us, I'd say.
And probably pretty good timing to have you on. I mean, with Spoonar being goalie of the month for the Western League, I mean. That's all your work, right? Right there.
Yeah. No, he was pretty good when I found him, so I'm not going to take too much credit. He's off to a good start, and a good kid, and I guess I was with working with these guys last year as well. So it's been about one full season, and now just getting this one going with Jan, and he's just been awesome to work with, and he's just a really dedicated athlete, and I've enjoyed our time.
How would you say the position has changed in the 10 years since you were playing in this league to coming back around and being involved in your current role?
Yeah, as far as like the style of play and like the kind of the system of play, it's pretty similar. I think the biggest change in junior hockey, not just in our league, but all over, is goalies are trending a lot older. I think it was more common 10 years ago to maybe pair like a 16 or 17-year-old with a 19 and 20-year-old. You kind of just keep filling. That guy becomes older, and you bring in another young guy. So you always have an older, experienced guy on your staff who's played a lot of games, and you're grooming another one. I do think the pressure to win has increased. And I think teams have started going with more older goalies. You'll see a lot more 18 and even 19-year-old rookies in the league. That's when they're breaking in, and you'll see a lot of tandems of both goalies are 19 years old. You'll have a 20 and a 19-year-old. You'll have a lot more of those kind of combinations, which I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just seems to be where it's trending.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to remember. I think it was we had the GM for Swift Current on our sister show at WHL Unfiltered, and that was kind of their plan. Is they had two 18s right now, and they're planning on one of them making it as an overage, and that's kind of like where they're trying to work the cycle, which is kind of I thought that was a little unorthodox, but maybe you're right. Maybe that's kind of direction that some teams are going.
Yeah, I think they really like having multiple veteran guys on there. Especially depending on where your team is in their development. If you're a team that you think you have a chance to win it, maybe you don't want to put all your eggs in one guy and he gets hurt or something happens, he gets sick at the wrong time, and then you're throwing a 16, 17-year-old in there into a game that, he's not ready for. Like, I think, probably thinking back to when I played, if it was run how it's run now, I probably don't make the team as a 16-year-old because we had a really strong team that were going to run with it. You'd probably stack two really strong goalies on the same team or two older goalies. Yeah,
they were scoring a lot of goals. Had a real nice decor when you were playing here. That's for sure.
Definitely.
So and I do want to get into that, but kind of back to dig down a little bit. I mean, I'm still intrigued on like what the interactions are. I mean, I assume you're watching all the games. I mean, it's such a unique position that that there really is no other way to relate. I mean, most of your regular coaches that were forwards or defensemen, they don't even know what to do with the goalie half the time. It's like you guys are speaking a different language. I mean, what's it like to kind of have those interactions and be part of the goalie community and be like somebody for these guys to lean on? I mean, kind of what's the interactions like?
Yeah, it definitely is unique. I think we're lucky with our staff, Brian, Gus, Mike. These are really bright guys who aren't just they don't just take a step back and say, I don't know anything about goalie, you take it. Like, these guys have input. They all know goaltending and they know it well. But then there is a point where you have to play it, you have to experience it to really know the ins and outs of it. I think it'd be an extremely hard position to coach if you haven't played. It's just so unique, the preparation that goes into it, the pressures of it, and then like the skill development that it takes to actually play that position is unlike anything else. At least in hockey, I think there's some parallels in other sports. I'm assuming pitching would be the same in baseball, but the difference between that is almost everybody when they're younger pitches at some point, right? It's not like I work in youth hockey as well. Once you get to 10, 11 years old, you play your position, right? You're either, maybe you'll bounce between forward and D, but you play your position. Same in football. I think some of the better athletes, you'll see it all the time. They'll play quarterback for their high school because they're the best athlete there, and then they transition to, whatever position maybe suits them and their natural skill set the best. Where goaltending is, if you don't play goalie, and you probably never did, right? Maybe some street hockey, but pretty much nobody has ever. If you're not a goalie, you never really experienced it at any level.
Well, and a guy like yourself with your background and your pedigree, I mean, you probably always played goal, right?
No, actually, it's kind of funny. I think guys who, myself with my dad playing and then coaching as well, it's funny how it goes. Like, I think they try not to put you in it too young. And I can go down a wormhole of developing younger goalies, but I do think there's a lot of advantages to not playing goal when you're, let's say 11 years old or younger. I think maybe around then is probably when you want to start picking it up, so you do develop the skills not too late. But, I actually just played forward and D. I played out as a player until I was, I believe, around 11 years old, and that's when I made the full-time transition to goalie. I always was interested in it, but my dad thought it was a better development process to go out and skate.
Well, I mean, is that partially just, a lot of pressure too? I mean, being, like, I don't know, like how old were you when your dad was still playing in the pros? I mean, is there just too much, spotlight on you at that point, at that part of your development?
I don't really think that was ever part of our thought process. What's really pressure? Like, I don't think there's ever pressure on me to be as good as my dad was, or, I love hockey. I always did. And, he just tried to facilitate that any way he could. And, he knew my goals was to make it as far as I could in hockey, not to try and measure up to him, but just because I enjoyed it. I love the game. That's why I'm still involved with it, even though I'm not playing anymore. So like I don't think the thought process was ever the pressures that come with it because of the name. It was just strictly the choices were made just out of development and what helps you develop as an athlete the best.
Well, and I wonder part of that too, if say you guys would have stayed in Philadelphia or something versus hockey in the desert. I mean, it's kind of it's a little bit of a different animal as far as being a non-traditional market. It's kind of more low key in a way. I mean, what's that been like as far as growing up in Arizona and then working in Portland? I mean, kind of both non-traditional markets. Kind of, you're in some ways you can just kind of like do your business and you don't have to worry about the the sideshow that might be in, like, say, Toronto or something.
Yeah, it's definitely not a traditional hockey market, but, make no mistake how big the hockey market is here in Arizona. It's, the youth, we have some of the biggest youth organizations in the U.S. here. I think we have the 5th largest youth organization with the Junior Coyotes in the U.S. here in Arizona. So it's definitely not a traditional market, but there is so much hockey here now, and it's grown so much since I was younger. Kind of right when I started, it seemed niche, and then I think with the Coyotes, a lot of people my age started playing. With how many Canadian and Northerners live down here, it's just exploded, and it's a really popular sport here. And obviously, we're still trying to grow it, and really the only thing stopping us from growing it down here is the amount of rinks. And I think you guys probably have the same thing up there. Is the demand's so high now that we just booked all solid. Like the amount of hockey here is just, it's gone crazy. And obviously you've seen it with some of the production. We've produced a lot of players out of here all of a sudden.
You, after your Western League career, went on to utilize the scholarship and continue to play for the Golden Bears. I mean, how valuable is that? I mean, it's, we all know that, such a small percentage of guys are going to, go pro and make to the highest level, and that scholarship always seems like such a great fallback, is that you're guaranteed to, put yourself in a good position to succeed in the rest of life. I mean, what was it like playing for the Golden Bears?
It was amazing. I wanted to go to Alberta. That's where a lot of my family's from. My mother's from Red Deer. My grandparents were still living in Red Deer at the time when I was playing there. And it was just a fantastic opportunity to go there with a bunch of guys who were also, like-minded, major junior guys, for the most part, played on that team. Never had to pay a dime for any class, anything like that. I get to go to a really high-end school. I was working towards my business degree while playing hockey, and at some point you got to decide, am I going to make a living playing hockey? Maybe not. But the great thing about CIS and how good it's gotten now, or actually I should correct myself, it's youth sports now. They rebranded. But the greatest part about Canadian University hockey is the level's gotten so good. Like my time in Edmonton, 3 guys signed NHL contracts off our team. Like that hockey's still really good, and guys continue their dreams of playing professional hockey while getting their education now.
Well, and the Golden Bears specifically are like the big bad of Canadian University. I mean, they seem like they win every year, and that's pretty cool that you got to be a part of such a storied program like that.
Yeah, I felt really thankful, and I think what a lot of people don't realize when they're thinking about where you're going to play university hockey, not just Canadian university but NCAA, is it's really hard to get in those programs, and you have to get a little bit lucky because let's say each team carries 3 goalies, and if they got a senior, a junior, and a sophomore, by the time your eligibility is up and you're looking for a school, you're not getting in. So it takes some luck. Obviously, I was really thankful to be considered to play at a school like that with such a high level, and also there's a little bit of luck that there was some vacancy for a spot for me to fill.
Yeah, well, so much that, especially in a position where there's only 2 guys on every team. I mean, so much of that is circumstance, and then you got to be ready for the opportunity. But it's pretty fortunate when it works out in your favor and the right spot for the right guy opens up. Yeah,
and I've I look back at when I played, and I've definitely just seemed to get lucky a lot. So sometimes things just work out, and that was another one of those things for me.
So yeah, similar place we can go. I mean, not very many guys go to multiple Memorial Cups or multiple Memorial Cups with different teams or even in different leagues, but you did. I mean, that's a pretty unique, animal. I mean, what was it? What was that like going to Memorial Cups?
Yeah, well, obviously my career in the WHL, I was really fortunate to be a part of Portland and the great teams we had, and then getting to London, I think if you ask people who are some of the best junior organizations in the world, where would you want to play in any, and if you're encompassing all leagues, I think Portland and London would come up in those as just factories for producing players, and somehow I end up in both of those, and with how cyclical junior hockey can be, I end up on both those teams when they're making runs at winning championships. So again, I just feel really fortunate, and I was lucky with some of the people I was able to meet along the way, and sometimes things like that just work out.
Those, we've been talking about it, but those Portland teams were really fun to watch, and I've been wanting to we just passed the 10-year anniversary of that championship team, and I've been wanting to try to connect with some of the guys that were on that team, and I just haven't really got there. It's life gets in the way of this project sometimes, but what was that ride like? I mean, those couple of years you were here, and it seems like everything you guys touched turned to gold for a while there.
Yeah, and it's funny how I think people on the outside look at it, and maybe I'm negative, but I still just look back at those, and God, some of the losses still keep me up at night. I still think about them in my free time. They just haunt my mind, the championships we could have still won. But you'd never take for granted how hard winning is. And, I'm not so naive to think that we should have just run the table every year. But, we were so lucky to have some of that talent on there. Obviously, a great coaching staff. You look at some of the coaches who came through us and where they are now. Where they went, and now some of them are back. And then you look at some of the players we had. The scouting department just did an amazing job. To have teams like that, you got to find some late round gems, and we definitely did with some really high talent guys.
Yeah. I imagine the losses are a thing, and I don't know if you saw this or were part of this, but early in the the COVID shutdown, the league started playing these classic games on what they were doing is like a YouTube, like a live YouTube thing, but they were old games, and so we were kind of like watching them, like we were like all at the same time, it's a live game or whatever. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but that 2014 Game 7 against Edmonton, and so I was watching it, and I definitely remember watching it, 2 years ago, whenever it was, those goals didn't seem like they hurt as bad. Like those were just a nice shot and the guy was open. I know in the building at the time it was it seemed like they hurt pretty bad. But I gotta say that I feel like, at least in my mind, you played better than I remembered as far as seeing it on tape versus in real time. It was so it was a little easier to take after the years, at least on my end. But I was just sitting in the stands, like I wasn't competing at that level. But it seemed you played better than I thought at the time, is what I'm getting at.
Well, I'm glad it looks like I played okay, but I could never watch that game again. I don't think I ever could. I still think about that game sometimes, and you don't execute at a level you think you can, and it slips away. And it's those things. I'm not. I guess it probably sounds dramatic to some people. They literally haunt you forever. And I always think about that game and some of the guys who never got a championship, who that was as close as they ever got, and it slipped through the fingers. But that's the way it goes. You try your best, and sometimes you come up short. And that was probably the biggest moment in my career that I can think of where I came up short, and just still trying to right that wrong now. I guess trying to help the team any way I can.
Yeah, I mean, formidable opponent. I mean, those Oil Kings teams, were, serious, hockey clubs, and a lot of, really nice, names and talent on their end of things. And yeah, I mean, somebody has to lose in a game like that. It's, there's no ties, but, it's not like, they were, you lost to a bad team. I mean, those Oil Kings did that to a lot of teams. I mean, won a Memorial Cup that year.
No, they were excellent, and it's not to take anything away from them. They were so good and had a lot of great talent, and obviously, a lot like us, they were right there in the heat every year. And but yeah, no, it's just that's the great thing with hockey. I had a lot of really good memories, but it's funny how almost the bad ones stick out more, and that's. That's definitely one of them. I kid you not, Chad. I'll have a bad dream about that once a year still.
Well, I mean, they say that. I mean, I never played anything organized, but they personally, but they say that as a to be a competitor to get to this level and beyond that. It's the guys that hate to lose seem to have more success than the guys that just love to win. It's almost which seems like. Maybe that's what it's a good thing we have sports psychologists now. Maybe we can help these guys out, because that seems like it would be a terrible way to live. But as far as to be that, again, obviously you have to be like a serious competitor and a warrior and all those terms we use for guys to get to this level. And so it only makes sense that it would stick with you on something like that.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, that might be more specific to the position of goaltending too, the way that makes me feel. Like, I know looking back at playing, I can think of way more scenarios that just make me sick to my stomach than ones that bring a smile to my face as far as results of games go. And I think that's just how it feels during the season for a goalie. I think it's, I think a lot of goalies are like that, where to me, like, winning never felt as good as losing felt bad. And you win a game and you play really well and it feels momentarily pretty good. You lose a game, you play terrible, or I talk about that game 7 where I don't think I played very well, and we lose the championship. Like that one, it sticks around a lot longer.
Again, coming full circle and coming, back to working in this town. I mean, it's, I've always felt like this market, Winterhawks fans could be really harsh on the goalies. It's kind of as much as, again, it's not the NHL. It's not, the little apple the Kamloops used to be with the newspapers and all that. But, but it seems like, for a lot of the fans, at least on the internet, it's like nothing's good enough. You played with the winningest playoff goaltender in league history, and he was never good enough. And it's like, well, I mean, what do you want? You know what I mean? It's kind of, what was it? Did you feel some of that when you were playing here, as far as like, it's just a tough place to play goal. I mean, I think, at least from the outside.
No, I agree. I think it's a tough market. I think the U.S. markets are a lot different. Like, I don't think I knew any different because I started my junior career in Portland. But when I went to other places, I could definitely feel a different vibe. And I just think, I bet Seattle, Everett, I bet a lot of those places feel the same way, where for some reason, the crowd, the fans, the fan base for the U.S.-based teams are a lot more intense about it. I think there's a lot more intensity towards the results of the team, and ultimately the goalie affects the results the most. So, I believe a lot of it falls on that, where, maybe in some of these smaller town Canada, that's more of just the home team. You cheer for them, win or lose, and they're young guys trying their best. I do think there's definitely a change when you go to some of these smaller Canadian junior towns to some of these big U.S. cities that we play in.
Yeah, you make a good point about, just mention Everett, in passing. I mean, to be with the long line of successful goalies they've had. I mean, the next guy that comes around that's just kind of like so. I mean, yeah, he's probably going to feel it, compared to all these greats that came through there. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and they've had amazing goalies come through there. And I'm sure they feel a lot of the same pressures that a lot of these teams play. But the position itself, there's a lot of pressure, and I don't know if it actually affects the play of the goalie, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, you've found a way to make the game work for you, and you talk about I'm sure there's plenty of other opportunities you could do for a regular 9 to 5, but you found a way to stay in the game, and that's got to be pretty good opportunity for you, right? I mean, as far as trying to, again, like, making the game work for you.
Yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate that Mike, Kyle, Brian, and all the other staff brought me in to work with a really high end program. Like I said earlier, I just do, work in hockey because I love it. I'm not saying I'm a genius, and I who knows, maybe I would be really struggling out there working the regular 9 to 5. That's very likely. It's not like I'm crushing in all facets of life, but I just, I really love hockey, and I've committed my life to it, and I really couldn't imagine working in any other business. I know when I was going to school, I worked odd jobs, and I remember doing internships, and I just watched the clock. I couldn't wait for the day to end. Where in hockey, I really enjoy it, and while there's like hard times in any job, and you're grinding at times, overall, it's just the best place to work for me.
And I guess we just talked about, having the, big skates to fill for, guys up in Everett. I mean, when you took this job, you're replacing, one of the best goalies ever in Andy Moog, a guy that had a lot of success with the high flying, Oilers in the 80s. I mean, what's, and also some, success down the road too, Boston and whatnot. I mean, is there pressure there as far as, the last guy had a pretty good reputation?
No, I don't think so. Like, that's not. I guess I don't really feel that way. Maybe it's the same as goalies. I don't know if you really actually, when you're in it, think about like the guy you're replacing. You just put the best effort you can forward and try and help. And luckily that I was able to work with Andy last year, and what a great mentor and an awesome person, and a really great hockey mind. So I was able to learn a lot of things from him, and I think it feels pretty natural. I think it almost felt like it came full circle. He kind of mentored my dad when they were playing, and now he mentored me in my way to coaching. So I was really fortunate to work with Andy for a brief time, and I hope he's doing good and enjoying a little more downtime.
Yeah. Well, and so much of this game is, relationships and, who you know and who you've made friends with over the years, and and that's kind of, all kind. It can, which can be a bad thing if you're having a hard time breaking in, but it can be a great thing if you've developed relationships over the years and have people to lean on, and that's pretty cool too, as far as having a transition year between the two of you, as you come on to take the main role in that position. So it's probably the best thing for the club as far as the handing the torch off.
Yeah, and like I said, there's not a better guy than Andy. He's just a class act and a really great hockey mind. So again, another thing that I feel very lucky about in my hockey career.
Well, I know you've got more work to do yet tonight. So as we put a bow on this, is there anything else you want to touch on as we put the finishing touches on this episode?
No, I guess there's nothing else specific that I wanted to talk about. I really appreciate you having me on, and of course, let me know if there's anything down the line, goaltending wise. I'd love to chat again.
Yeah. I mean, I anticipate more continued success from the starter on this team, and it looks like you got some work to do with the rest of the goalies in the organization. They as we talk about having with ice time and development, and you got to start from somewhere and keep continuing to progress, and there's definitely room for that. So yeah, it's I appreciate your time, Brendan, and we'll have to circle back maybe sometime down the road.
Of course, yeah. Thanks a lot, man.